Donald Trump walked into Beijing with one job: show strength, negotiate from a position of power, come home with wins for America. He did none of those things. In fact, what happened over the last 72 hours might be the most consequential diplomatic failure of his presidency. And I'm not exaggerating. Here's what we're figuring out together. First, how did Trump give away America's most advanced semiconductor technology without getting anything in return? Second, why did Xi Jinping literally draw red lines that Trump refused to cross, including abandoning a pro-democracy activist he promised to free? And third, why are even MAGA Republicans now questioning whether Trump actually knows what he's doing? We'll get to all three, but to understand any of it, you need to know one specific thing about how Trump approaches these negotiations. He doesn't prepare. He wings it. He relies on personal relationships that don't exist. And when he meets someone more prepared, someone who actually has a strategy, he folds. Let's start with what happened in that room with Xi Jinping. The meeting was supposed to be about trade, about Iran, about Taiwan, about resetting the relationship. Xi had a plan, Trump didn't. Xi walked in knowing exactly what he wanted to say and exactly what he wouldn't tolerate. Trump walked in talking about Chinese restaurants. Yes, Chinese restaurants. While Xi Jinping was laying out China's vision for global dominance, Trump was giving a speech about how Chinese restaurants in America outnumber the 5 largest fast food chains combined. That was his contribution to bilateral relations between the world's 2 largest superpowers. Not strategy, not leverage, not even coherent talking points, just rambling about food. But here's where it gets worse. Xi Jinping made something very clear during that meeting. Taiwan is off limits. Don't bring it up. Don't challenge China on it. It belongs to China, and that's not negotiable. And Trump, he didn't push back. He didn't negotiate. He didn't even acknowledge it publicly. When reporters asked him directly, "Did you discuss Taiwan?" his response was basically, "Great place, China, beautiful." That's not diplomacy, that's surrender. Now let's talk about Jimmy Lai. This is important because it shows exactly how little Trump actually cares about his own promises. Back in 2024, Trump said on radio, "Jimmy Lai is very important to America's Catholics, to the world. Xi has him in jail." Do you think you could speak to Xi when you're back in the presidency about getting Jimmy Lai out? Trump's response was immediate. 100%. Yes. He was so confident, so sure he'd get Lai released because of his great relationship with Xi. Then, right before the trip to Beijing, a reporter asked Trump about it again. You know what he said? Jimmy Lai caused a lot of bedlam. He tried to do the right thing. He wasn't successful. In other words, Trump was basically saying Lai deserved to be in prison. And by the way, Trump did bring up Lai's name during the meeting, but not to negotiate his release, to defame him, to explain to Xi why he understands why Lai is locked up. So Trump broke his promise, threw a pro-democracy activist under the bus, and gained nothing. That's the pattern here. Give, 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 get nothing. Let's talk about the H200 chips. These are the most advanced semiconductor chips in the world. They're classified, they're restricted. They're the kind of technology that determines whether China can compete militarily with the United States. And Trump just cleared the way for 10 Chinese firms to get them. Not because Xi asked nicely, not because it was part of a broader deal. Trump just handed it over. And what did he get? A promise that Xi said strongly they're not helping Iran. That's it. A verbal promise from the guy who controls a totalitarian state. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister Araghchi was literally standing next to China's foreign minister Wang Yi last week, coordinating military cooperation, economic cooperation, diplomatic cooperation. They were planning how to work together. But Trump trusts Xi. Trump believes him because Trump operates on feelings, not facts. Here's where it gets even more interesting. While Trump was in China, Russia launched one of its biggest drone and missile strikes on Ukraine in 4 years. Thousands of drones, hundreds of missiles, civilians killed, buildings destroyed. And Trump said nothing. He posted a video of himself with Xi Jinping like he was showing off his crush, but nothing about the war, nothing about Russia's aggression, nothing about the promises he made in 2024 that he'd end the war in Ukraine in 24 hours. You remember that promise, right? Trump said it would be easy. He had such good relationships with both Putin and Zelensky. He'd solve it immediately. Well, it's been weeks. The war is still going. In fact, it's escalating while Trump's busy in Beijing. And here's what the MAGA Republicans are saying. Senator Rick Scott, a Trump ally, posted this. Communist China has never lived up to one contract they've signed. They lie, cheat, and steal. And they arrested my friend Jimmy Lai because he fought for democracy. They can't be trusted. But Trump's out there saying, she told me, she promised me, I trust him. Senator Lindsey Graham went further. He basically said the only thing China understands is strength. If you don't threaten consequences, they won't change behavior. And what did Trump do? He threatened nothing. He promised nothing. He just gave things away. Then you have Secretary of State Marco Rubio basically regurgitating Xi Jinping's talking points about Taiwan. When asked if China wants to invade Taiwan, Rubio said, well, I think China's preference is probably to have Taiwan willingly, voluntarily join them. In a perfect world, what they would want is some vote or referendum in Taiwan that agrees to fold in. That's not American foreign policy. That's China's foreign policy coming out of the mouth of America's Secretary of State. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he's confident President Trump understands the issues. Confident, not certain, not assured, confident. That's the language you use when you're trying to convince yourself and everyone else that the president isn't completely out of his depth. Meanwhile, at the BRICS meeting in India, Iran's foreign minister Araghchi was coordinating with Brazil, Russia, China, South Africa, and others to issue a joint statement condemning the United States for its illegal aggression against Iran. While Trump was talking about Chinese food, the world was reorganizing itself around a different power structure, a structure that doesn't include American leadership. Araghchi said something that really captures what's happening. Empires in decline will stop at nothing to arrest their inevitable fates. A wounded animal would desperately claw and roar on its way down. That's how the rest of the world sees America right now. Not as a leader, not as a superpower, as a declining empire trying desperately to hold on. And Trump? He's accelerating that decline. He's giving away technology. He's abandoning allies. He's making promises he can't keep. He's folding in front of Xi Jinping and calling it a win. Here's the thing that matters. Trump said this trip would be historic. He said he'd negotiate the best deals. He said he'd bring peace. He said he'd protect American interests. Instead, he gave away advanced chips, abandoned a pro-democracy activist, let Taiwan get pushed to the side, and basically accepted China's vision of a world where America is secondary. And the scariest part? This is just the beginning. Trump's going to keep making these kinds of moves. He's going to keep trusting dictators. He's going to keep breaking promises. And every time he does, America loses more credibility, more leverage, more relevance. So what do you think? What surprises you most about what just happened in Beijing? Because honestly, the fact that Trump's own party is questioning him now, that tells you everything you need to know. This wasn't a diplomatic victory. This was a humiliation. And everyone can see it except the guy who caused it. The subject is framed at a stable, static shot, with the camera held steady to create a calm and professional look. Their posture appears upright but relaxed, projecting quiet confidence and ease. They keep steady eye contact with the lens, paired with a light, consistent smile that feels approachable and positive without ever becoming exaggerated. Totally avoid describing inferred motions or actions like nodding, waving, or gesturing. Instead, describe the static position and orientation of the body, head, and limbs as they appear in the frozen frame. For example, instead of "he is nodding," describe "his head is tilted slightly forward." The description must be of a single, unmoving moment. The overall performance is steady, polished, and versatile, designed to feel safe, approachable, and professional. Always lean towards conservative movement, especially with any type of head movement.